Silence is the place where I go to be at total peace and feel the love of God. I have found that to be true in my life. And 17 centuries ago, in the scorching deserts of Egypt, a group of radical Christian monks discovered the very same thing. They called it Hesychia, and they believed it was the most direct path to God available to a human being. Welcome to Ascend and Awaken. Timeless wisdom for awakening and inner peace. In the 3rd century, something remarkable happened. As Christianity became legal under Roman Emperor Constantine, as it moved from the margins to the center of power, a group of men and women did something unexpected. They walked away, not from God, toward God, into the Egyptian desert, into the silence, into what the world would have called nothing, and what they discovered was everything. These were the Desert Fathers and Mothers, the earliest Christian monastics, men like Abba Antony, Abba Moses, and Abba Poemen, women like Amma Syncletica. Who were the Desert Fathers? They left behind comfort, reputation, and the noise of civilization, not out of despair, but out of an almost desperate hunger to experience God directly, not to think about God, not to debate theology, not to perform religion, to actually meet God, face to face. They encountered God in the solitude of their own hearts. Here is what makes the Desert Fathers so startling and relevant today. They were fleeing a world that had become too loud, too distracted, too comfortable. The world was overflowing with words about God, yet it lacked the tangible experience of God. They lived in a noisy and hectic world, and they understood that only silence allows us to hear what is really going on within our restless hearts. Only when we are still can we listen to what the Spirit within is saying to us. Does that sound familiar? We live in perhaps the noisiest moment in human history. Notifications, news cycles, social media, the relentless push of a world that profits from your distraction and fears your stillness. The Desert Fathers saw the future coming, not the technology, but the pattern. The Desert Fathers recognized the human inclination to inundate every available space with noise. We tend to avoid silence because it demands something of us, and they chose differently. The Desert Fathers had a word for what they were seeking, Hesychia. It comes from the Greek word for stillness, rest, quiet, and silence. But Hesychia was never simply the absence of noise. This silence wasn't merely the absence of noise, but a profound state of inner tranquility and receptivity to the divine presence. It is the condition of the heart that makes it possible to receive God. Think of it this way: you cannot hear a whisper in a room full of shouting. You cannot see stars while standing under floodlights. You cannot feel the subtle movements of God's presence while the mind is churning with worry, opinion, judgment, and endless commentary. Hesychia is the clearing. The inner room was made ready. The heart that has become, as one Desert Father described it, all flame. The Desert Fathers left us their wisdom in short, concentrated sayings, words of salvation passed from elder to student across the desert sands. They are among the most direct spiritual teachings ever recorded. Abba Moses said simply, "Go, sit in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything." Your cell, your silence, your willingness to stay when every impulse says to move, to speak, to do, to distract. A hermit said, "Take care to be silent. Empty your mind. Attend to your meditation in the fear of God, whether you are resting or at work. If you do this, you will not fear the attacks of the demons." And perhaps most striking of all, when asked to give a word of wisdom to an archbishop, Abba Pambo replied, "If he is not edified by my silence, he will not be edified by my speech." They taught by being, not by speech. If a man cannot understand my silence, he will never understand my words. This approach is radical. This spirituality does not prioritize more information, more teaching, or more content. This is the spirituality of presence, of depth. This is the kind of knowing that emerges only when the noise ceases. The Desert Fathers were not romantic about silence. They did not sit peacefully in the desert sipping tea. They discovered that silence is confronting. When the noise stops, when the distractions fall away, what remains is you, your wounds, your fears, your unresolved aches, your habitual thoughts, the restless movements of a mind that has never learned to be still. What the Desert Fathers anticipated is our inability to face ourselves, our wounds, our incompleteness, imperfection, limitations, losses, and need for love. And yet this moment is precisely where God waits, not in the noise, not in the achievement, not in the performance of religion, in the place you have been avoiding, in the silence you have been filling. The Desert Fathers lived in silence, fasting and prayer, and found Hesychia, the deep inner stillness that leads the soul to spiritual peace and perfect union with God. Concentrating their entire being within, they made their heart heaven and lived paradise on earth, the Lord dwelling with them. They made their hearts heaven, not someday, not after enough preparation, not after achieving spiritual perfections. Right there, in the desert, in the cell, in the silence. You don't need a desert. You don't need a monastery. You need what the Desert Fathers needed: the willingness to be still, just for a moment, just long enough to remember what is underneath all the noise. The psalm they kept returning to says it simply: "Be still and know that I am God." Not be still and think about God. Not be still and study God. Be still and know that knowing, the Desert Fathers discovered, is available to every human heart willing to enter the silence and stay long enough to let God speak. That is why stillness is the gateway, not because silence is empty, but because silence is where God has been waiting, patiently, lovingly, all along. Today's invitation is simple. Find 5 minutes of genuine silence today, not background music, not a podcast, not even a guided meditation, just silence. And bring to it one question, not to answer with your mind, but to offer to the stillness. What would you have me know? And then listen, not for words necessarily, but for the quality of presence that the Desert Fathers gave their lives to find. Thank you for spending this time with me here on Ascend and Awaken. I'd love to hear in the comments, what is your relationship with silence? Is it effortless for you, or does it feel like a struggle? If Ascend and Awaken supports your journey, consider subscribing for more reflections on timeless wisdom, spiritual awakening, and inner peace. Peace, love, and light to you on your spiritual journey.